Tonight, a young man who lived with his family in the city's west is facing a life sentence for preparing a knife attack and trying to recruit others to follow his cause.
Short Street, Riverwood, a well-kept apartment block, and the counter-terrorism team targets a would-be ISIS fighter in Sydney's backyard. He's wanted for allegedly preparing a terrorist act using knives.
Police search warrant! Open the door!
21-year-old Yusuf Uinat lives with his parents. He's now facing life in jail. It's alleged the man posted extremist material on social media and he downloaded documents on weapons and how to best use them.
We were talking about the use of knives and blunt instruments in terms of how to be effective in relation to a terrorist attack.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his French counterpart have been caught on camera allegedly gossiping about President Donald Trump at a reception at Buckingham Palace. Now, in a huddle alongside Princess Anne and Boris Johnson, Justin Trudeau and Emmanuel Macron were caught discussing a 40-minute press conference. President Trump was not mentioned by name, but he had held a lengthy press conference with Mr. Macron earlier that day. The leaders are in London for NATO meetings.
Even before the London NATO summit began, Turkey's president was proving somewhat contrary, this time warning he'd block a plan to defend the Baltic states from Russian aggression.
If our friends at NATO do not recognize as terrorist organizations those against whom we carry out the fight against terrorism, then excuse me, we will stand against any that will be taken there.
It's not the first time Turkey's seemingly acted at odds with the military alliance's aims. Ankara has already purchased a S-400 air defense missile system from NATO rival Russia. And more recently, it's invaded northeastern Syria. This in a bid to create a buffer zone along its southern border to resettle Syrian refugees and to expel the Kurdish YPG militia, which it sees as a terrorist group.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed two controversial security bills into law. One will require certain technologies sold in the country to include pre-installed software from the government. The other would designate certain journalists and bloggers as foreign agents. The move has been criticised by the EU, with the bloc's Commissioner for Human Rights saying the laws are a major setback for media freedom in the country.
Billionaire Elon Musk's tweets have gotten him in hot water before. Now they've landed him in court. Musk is being sued by British cave rescue diver Vernon Unsworth. Unsworth participated in the successful effort to rescue 12 boys and their coach from a flooded cave in Thailand last year. Musk sent a robot mini-submarine to Thailand, but Unsworth said the sub was useless and Musk was pulling a publicity stunt. That's when Musk called Unsworth pedo guy on Twitter, implying, with zero evidence, that he was a child molester. Unsworth later sued.
Here we go.
In the true spirit of Christmas, Parliament is a place of give and take.
Maybe it should apply to question time.
In the Senate, it was Jackie Lambie who handed the Prime Minister his gift.
I am voting for the repeal of Medevac.
Laws that bring sick refugees from offshore detention to Australia for medical treatment, now scrapped.
To shut the door that Labor sought to prize open last year.
The key vote that killed Medevac was independent Jackie Lambie, who cut a deal with the government she won't reveal. 184 people have been transferred to Australia via Medevac since the law passed in February with the help of Labor, the Greens and Independents. But nobody has gone back. Some have been accused of using creative ways to exploit the law.
Good evening. We begin our broadcast with breaking news with 2 bushfires threatening residents just north of Sydney. A home has been lost behind the Central Coast near Wiseman's Ferry in the last 2 hours, with another blaze bearing down on Colo Heights in the Hawkesbury.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. And as you mentioned, one home has already been lost at Mangrove Creek, south of Pete's Ridge. You can see from these pictures coming in from the Channel 9 News helicopter just how ferocious it is. And the challenge firefighters are facing is that this is rugged and remote terrain, making it very difficult to control. In the past 2 hours, a fire at Colo Heights, it's been burning through the Wallamai National Park for the past few weeks, has jumped a containment line, and residents there have been told to take shelter.
Nearly 3 months ago, India's ambitious attempt at making space history ended when its scientists lost communication with the Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft, moments before it was supposed to touch down on the moon. After a months-long search, America's space agency, NASA, now says it has located the crash site, thanks to an amateur astronomer from India.
This is just a regular guy from India who basically managed to do what some of the world's leading space scientists couldn't. His name is Shanmugha Subramanian. He's a 33-year-old mechanical engineer and a self-proclaimed space nerd. So when the Indian Mission Control lost contact with the spacecraft, he decided to join the search and see if he could find it.
Okay, so how did he do that?
Well, he did all of it from his laptop, from his home.
The Victoria Falls, the biggest curtain of falling water in the world, but not right now, and maybe no longer. The waterfall which divides Zambia and Zimbabwe has fallen to its lowest level in about 25 years. It often dries up in sections on the Zambian side, but this is much worse than normal. It's a fraction, and the huge walls of rock should be covered with cascading water. We took to the air in a microlight to better see the dramatic change, exacerbated by a long drought and a delayed rainy season. There's no doubt it's still one of the most spectacular visual feasts you'll ever see, but it seems to be disappearing.